Morning, Facebook fans. It's Jennie Wheatley. We're going to start now on the grade Z. Stick and stay with us. Yes, you're the only.
Okay.
So you can write. And good morning. Welcome to all. I am Paul on the ball, and it's the morning show. What a wonderful and a great morning it is. And in fact, it is even a greater morning. I could hardly sleep last night because a young lady who I remember when I went to school, I used to be even afraid to say good morning because, in those days, the level of respect was so high. And I'm not suggesting it's any lower today, but it was so high in those days that you were even afraid to say good morning. And I'm going to say a good morning to this young lady this morning. Good morning. Tell the folks who you are.
Good morning. It's so good to be here again. I am Jennie Naomi Smith Wheatley. All of those.
There you have it. Teacher Jennie to most of us here, for all of us here and in fact, I think there are very few who haven't been taught by you, to be honest.
Well, recently, Paul, I have not been teaching it, but, it's been taught for 55 years. Wonderful years. Starting at Eastern Primary and going through to Longlow, to Bogersby School, to Kindergarten Bay, then back to the high school, and at the college. I think I have it all.
You just covered it all there, but I'm not going to let you go so fast into the future yet. Let's go a few years back, and let's talk a bit about your parents. Who are your parents?
Well, my parents, Hubert Arnold Smith. My brother has that name. My brother Arnold has that. I am my mother, Leah, Eliza, Penn, Toma. Those are the people. And my mother was born 1898, and father was 11 years older than she was. And they were such strong people. My mother, they always remind me that I decided to be born when I wanted to be born. And my argument is that this is true of any child, unless you have a miscarriage. So what are you people talking about? Well, you see, all your brothers and sisters were born in April, and only you and your older sister in St. Martin were born in June. Well, I said, I find that pretty consistent. But those people were. My mother was a Strouck lady, and her parents. It's so interesting. Her mother then was born in St. Thomas, in St. John, and her father was from Longlow. So you had a combination. I said, well, mother, how did your mother get to St. John? She said, oh, Jen, I can tell you that St. John needed some boat builders. And those boat builders, the best in the world, came from Eastern Tortola. I said, I think you're a little conceited, but we leave it at that. So that my grandmother ended up in St. John, actually born in Coralby, and that is my St. John link.
Wow.
And my father, well, he's a Smith from East End, and both of his parents were Penns. I said, well, did you marry your sister? No. Both of his parents were Penns, and the Eastern Penns. And this was an interesting set because you had the fairer skinned Penns, from whom we're going to get people like Alfred Penn and Norma. And then you had the darker skinned Penns, from which we're going to get Paul and Jennie.
Was there a difference in the darker side pens and the lighter pens?
Yes. The lighter Penns were considered the educators. That's who they were.
So you came from the darker side pens?
I'm mixed. That is a problem. I told him, well, I'm mixed up. I said, yes, just leave it at that. You have the lighter skin pen and the darker skin pen. And according to where the pens land, you'll get from dark to light, like my normal husband. So that's the way it went. But you did have, unfortunately, a sense of prejudice too, because it had nothing to do with your skin, but that you were nearer to the school. And the people already had that attitude. I want my child to be educated. And so the children, in that area, you went to school every day. Whereas from the other part, my Long Look side and the rest, you couldn't get to school every day. Sometimes, my mother said sometimes she got there 3 times for the day. And I said, Mother, where did you go to school? She said, in Antimanda 2-cent school. So what was that? Jen, you still had to pay a little school fee at the time. We didn't get money to do that. Well, one of the things that happened in the old days is that if you were, as it should be today, if you wanted a child to be well educated, you would take out every bit of the money except money for food. Because your child had to learn to, and you didn't use a big word, your child had to learn to read and write. That's how it went. Your child had to learn to read and write. And so, even if you didn't make it, your child had to be able to later on write a letter to anybody for you. So it was a great attitude, and which I would hope had lasted all along our time, And in the case of my mother, you got up early. She did what she had to do, and then when about 8:30, she would stand up and say, "Is everybody ready for school? Teacher Willard is going up now." And I said, "Oh my goodness, if Willard Wheatley is going up now, we have to get up before Willard Wheatley." And so it used to be a race for, you know what facilities we had, the basin and the this and the that, and somebody, but the boys, you use just a can of cup or 2 of water there, let's go.
Wow.
But there was such a wonderful attitude. My child must be educated, must be able to read and write.
Take me through, I wanted to make it a little picturesque for me. Primary school, where did you attend? What was it like from your early years in primary school, and where did you attend?
Eastern Methodist. So it means that I was just a step away.
Wow.
And because there were 3 teachers in my family, so I am only a step away, and I can hear the school songs. I can hear everything from the school. And so when at probably 2 or 3, and I am repeating it, and I'm saying, "Oh," when they come home, "You know what I just heard all you saying? Our Father chat in heaven." And they would say, "No, it was who art in heaven." "You're going to tell me? That's what I heard. You were up there saying, our Father chat in heaven." And I know my tables too, I said, "But you don't know your tables yet." "Yeah, I know my tables. all you were saying twice one or two, and you were marching to it, and I could hear them on the board floor.
Yes.
And you were saying twice one or two, one, twice two or four, and you were singing it. And they said, well, Jen, don't start to sing it because your singing isn't so hot, you know. But and again, you get all these people up on the top and they say everything. You're not ready for it yet. And so, in those days, you went to school whenever you were 5, whatever day it was.
Okay.
So, the first Monday after your birthday. So, I was born on June 24th. And so, the first Monday, you know, where I went to school. And it's always so funny when you think about it, because that means that Paul was born in August, so she couldn't get to school till September.
Wow.
but Teacher Willard said, no. Who you said the other one is at home? I said, Paul, my cousin Paul wants to come to school too, you know. So bring her tomorrow.
Wow.
Simple as that, you know, and we went in and I was struck. And I still remember as I went into school, I was struck with the fact that not everybody was dressed alike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had no uniform. But then I got in at the class with Dancia's mother. And Teacher Yuna, she was so sweet. She would straighten our bow and so forth and so forth. And then she would leave us alone. And she was waiting for another little boy. So what was she waiting for? And this was an older fellow who was way down, but still in the same class. He was coming, he was not well dressed or anything, and she would smooth his hair down. She always had an extra comb anyhow. She would smooth his hair down and fix his little shirt, and then she would tell him, tomorrow, tonight when you go home, wash those clothes. And you know, the ironing business, well, you just wash those clothes and just wash your face good, and take the rest of the water, wash your feet. And he'd say, I ain't not going to wash my feet because I don't have any shoes to come up in. She said, okay, when you get here, I'm going to have some water at the back there. You just wash your feet. And as I looked back, I said, what love. What love. And, you know, she followed all the time. She followed me. And whenever I get anything, she would want to know, where are you now? What is it? What do you have? Oh, Teacher Yuna, yes, I went to school. I'm going to college, and you're going to college? But I have to come. I have to put a blessing on you. And so it's just natural love, and I knew who needed it most.
Willard Wheatley, tell us a bit about Willard Wheatley. You mentioned the name as your principal.
Greatest teacher on earth.
But most of us only know it as a name.
Yeah.
You know him as a physical person.
If I knew it, he started me. I was in the school up there, East End School. He was the head teacher then. He started me off, and he taught 5, 6, and 7. Sat on the eastern window and actually taught those 3 classes and supervised the whole school. Those who are under the guinea tree on the left, those who are up higher up the hill, those who are way down, and those who are in the old toilet who might linger. He covered the entire school. So when I got old, I said, Wheatley, how many eyes do you have? I said, Jennie, just 2. But how could you see all of us? And then some of the boys, there were some scamps. They when the teacher sent them to him to be punished, they would go to the wall at the back and just hit their hands hard. And they come back to the teacher, you see, and they kind of mix up their face. You see, he nearly killed me with blows. And he would say, my dear, you're a liar. I heard everything. I saw everything. And it was, but he was a great teacher in terms of all the skills, the mathematics. I mean, he just loved his mathematics. He knew grammar from all kinds of times. But in the mathematics, when he pulled us through from simple interest to compound interest, and sometimes I said, we don't have any use for these things. And he would say to Ralph and he'll come and talk to this child a bit here because she can't see into the future. So then Ralph O'Neill would say to us there, the whole group, yes, listen to what he's saying because he said the same things to me. So that when I went to St. Kitts to grammar school, I had no problems. He was with Cyril Romney and Vera Shirley and all those. So we had no problems at all. But then you have to remember that those people, the people who went to St. Kitts and Antigua and what have you, they were very special. They had to take an exam in Road Town to prove that they had to pass it well. Along with my own sister, you know, a number of them, Paul Balak and the whole people, they went to St. Kitts, the grammar school, and the girls were at the girls high school. But when you look back at the years, and he also, when you had an opening out you write your letter to apply for us to get to a job. He called me in the afternoon and said, Jennie Smith, sit down. And you know, when Willard says sit down, you're frightened before. What did I do? Jennie Smith, there's going to be an opening here in the school for a teacher, and I expect you to be that one. Write your letter. So I don't know how to write a letter to these big people to get into a school. He said, you're still talking? Do you have your pen with pencil with you? I am dictating. I said, Wheatley, wait. I have it. And he said the following words, and he hereby applying, and you remember. And Jennie Smith, at the bottom, you don't say yours truly and the things that we taught you, or, you know. You have to go, I have the honor to be sure. You're whatever when you're begging for this position, you know, and I look back and when children talk to me and said, why are you strict about format of letters? And so I said, a business letter is a business letter. It doesn't matter where you are, when it's going to happen. A business letter is not a friendly letter. And well, do we have to do this? I said, yes, because I can't see into your future. I don't know where you're going to be. But there's a standard in the village. If Wheatley was wearing his brown suit, and the joke in the house was, Wheatley's going up in his brown suit. We might get away today with a few things. If Wheatley's in his white suit, get up there now.
Oh, wow.
and these jokes are passed on, and we believe that, you know, his punishment would be different according to the suit he wore. But he was great, and in fact, he took the same attitude straight into his political career. And he did so much for so many, but it's the children he kept in after school and afternoon. And many years later, I appreciated it. How could a man teach all day, teach the teachers, and still have time to teach a child who is lagging behind? And I couldn't believe it until, you know, you have the same experience. But I'm telling you, a great, great man. And I discuss this with Corbett sometimes, you know, and he said, but Jen, you got away because you had him at school only. Corbett Wheatley, who's just a year younger, he said I had him at home. So when he came home, he wasn't teaching me again. He's asking me, were you at school and were you listening?
Wow.
Corbett would say, yes, I was listening, but I didn't catch something or another. He said, you'll catch it tomorrow. Which means that Corbett had to just go into the book and think it over, think
Yes.
it over, think it over.
I see he's a great thinker.
Uh,
Tell us a bit about, you mentioned Ralph O'Neill. What was the connection at school with you? Was he in class with you? Was he, what was?
Oh no, he was not. He was a teacher. So what you had with the senior part of the school, you would give a strong teacher the senior part of the school. And but Ralph, when Ralph came in, then he was grooming him for a big word I didn't know anyhow. But Ralph then was able to teach us in the class below. So if he had 6 and 7, Ralph would get 5 and down. That's the kind of thing, you know. So, and that's why Ralph didn't teach Charles, because Charles was a class above. He was already with Willard.
Right.
And then, you know, then here is Ralph O'Neill, and you look at him, and the children then, you began to feel a difference in behavior, because here was Ralph O'Neill coming in from Virgin Gorda. I mean, who is he? You don't understand. Well, I don't see any reason why he had to come from Virgin Gorda. Well, he didn't stay Virgin Gorda where he was and teach the train up there.
Mm-hmm.
But he had to come into, actually came into Road Town first. And then came, and he had to go home on a weekend if he caught a boat home. He had to get back down here, get back to Road Town on a Sunday afternoon, stay in Road Town with Ishmael Hodge, people grandmother there,
Yeah.
Miss Baby. And Monday morning, rain or no rain, he had to hit the road over the hills. We didn't have a road over the broad as such as a good road. Hit the road over the hills. And my mother used to admire him. She said, look at that young man. You children are still here, not doing your work, not ready. Ralph O'Neill has come from Virgin Gorda. He came from Road Town. He's already in Eastern School before 5:44, 3, oh it is, 8:45. 8:45. But then he didn't have to go straight up. He could go into Miss Iris Penn's mother, Miss Clemmy, and where he's going to spend the week anyhow. And he'd drop off his things and he'd get his breakfast and then...
Very quickly, give us an idea of what the roads were like, because you're saying, you know, people are imagining he's driving on the Eastern Road here with a car, and take us through for him and for yourselves as well, what the conditions were like.
Well, in terms of the walk, he would have to come from Huntamsgut over the hill, as we call it, up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing for any of us who had to go. But the thing about people like Paul, we used to laugh at all of these big jokes. One person might have a horse, and you hold a horse tail, and you come up. And the same thing would happen about a ball, you know. She was in Huntamsgut area, and so that those roads were roads. And the thing about it that you have to remember, and people say, well, so what? You had your school shoes and your church shoes. And in some cases, if you had a pair of shoes, you swing the shoe over your shoulder and you go to town. Bus you to never mind, but you're going, when you get to the well there, you know, that well just before town, and you look down and you say, no, sir, we can't go into town like this. We have to wash off. So that well, the well there was so hot. Yes, you had to wash your feet and put on your 2 little shoes, and oh, you were so well dressed, you know. But the days were not the kinds of roads. And actually, the first time I got along the Broad, I'll never forget the day, was we went to pick up a death paper for for one of the family.
Yes.
And we met two girls as we were coming down the road. We met two girls from Bargers Bay, and they encouraged us to come along the broad walking with them. Well, my piece, we went up by their mother. And when we look at it dark and getting dark, what are we going to do? But we still had to go to the police station. And the policeman took one look at the situation and he panicked. Why? Where did you come from? Well, we came from East End. At what time did you leave? We left sometime around lunchtime. And you're getting here now. We can't send you back home. We can't send you back home like this. So his poor sister and I. And we said, so you're not going to give us the paper, sir? Yes. I'm going to call two responsible policemen and put you on horses. The horses that were there. And they're going to take you home. And they are not going back to town right away. Just let them know when they come to East End, you stay with the family, tie up the horses, stay with the family, we feed you, and in the morning, they'll get back to...
No, those weren't paved roads, were they?
Not at all, my dear, not at all, not at all. When we got our paved roads, of course, especially the one on the south here, this was in, 56 or somewhere thereabout. And that was drama. Because when they got to a good way into the village, we got a day off. I got an afternoon off. And Wheatley said, Willard said, you are going to Terrace Hill to watch the stones pushed off, because that is the biggest barrier to the road to East End that can go straight anywhere else. And we got the day off, and we were so excited. Wheatley gave us a day off, an afternoon off, but every teacher had to be there. And you had to stand high on the hill where Dancer originally lay, people like that, and look on. And some of the boys were a little bold, and they run like Harold Smith, Teacher Linden's husband. They running all around the place, and you saying, whoa, look at that big stone, look at that big stone, and noise. So this was Wilmot Ham and his partner there, and Freeman, and they cut in the road, and we said, seeing a bulldozer for the first time, of course, ripping through, and they're getting so close to each other, and then you shouting out, he's going to hit him, he's going to hit him, and he's going to, and they're laughing because they know what they're doing.
Yes.
And it was just, everything was excitement.
I'm going to do another name drop now. We have about 5 minutes before we take our first break. I'm going to ask you mentioned Cyril Romney, and then after you talk about Cyril, tell us any other persons you remember at primary school who were standouts.
At primary school.
Well, tell us about Cyril first.
My dear Cyril did not come into my life very early. Cyril Romney came into my life. Cyril actually could not be at East End School because he was a strong man for the middle school.
Yes, but you mentioned his name, that's why we went with Ralph.
No, with Ralph, that was in St. Kitts.
Oh, that was in St. Kitts?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
we'll come to that.
They were in St. Kitts.
Okay, all right, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So who else from the eastern end do you recall who stood out for you?
Starting out for me, as I picture her, would be Sylvia Smith, Baldwin Fred's mother. She was one of the most intelligent women I've ever known. And she made a map, and I'll never forget it, a map of Tortola out of papier-mâché. So that's when I realized that those little hills and gullies, I thought that was a hill. So once you give a child that flat picture, all our life, all we knew was a map with a flat picture. And she did it, and she put in the hills and she put in the bass, and we were just so fascinated. Each of us now wanted to make a map of the Otolo.
Wow.
It was she was solid. Teacher Lucia, my teacher Lucia Walters, passed on not too long ago. Um, those were the ones who stood out to me. Teacher Norman, Teacher Lucia Walters. Raymond Penn. Raymond Penn, he taught me in class 5. Oh, for me, he was Superman. Tall, handsome, strong.
Don't let your husband hear you.
Oh, he knows all about those lovely days. Raymond taught him too.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, and if I forget some of the teachers, they'll understand because, and other than that, it would be the great man, Morris Henry from Antigua.
Oh.
Yeah, the great man who came in to substitute, and he just could teach. But he not only could teach, music was his strength. So that he would have this tuning fork, and we were so amused when the tuning fork and ping, and some foolishness is this. Listen, and he would say, "Now, Jennie, listen." It was about I can't sing. What the thing is? It's a tuning fork, and now people like Charles right away knew. And they're going up the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and coming down, going up higher than do. I said, there's a place higher than do, re, mi, fa. I said, do? Yes, you have to go up to the other 2. I said, has anything at the bottom? He said, yes, you can go down lower. I said, Teacher Henry, I think my voice suit lower. But he was...
Jennie, we're going to take a pause for a cause, but they will be at the back there.
Yes.
Hope you all been listening, and I know you have been attentively. I have with me teacher Jennie Wheatley. We're talking about the good old days from the east and around the island. We're going to go across to talk about school in St. Kitts in a bit, and then we're going to get into her senior years. So stick and stay. Paul and the Ball in the Morning Show. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow, you learned so much.
But they're not going to forgive you for Rotown School, so I can't go too fast.
No. You just do what you experience. I didn't realize that your connection with Cyril was in St. Kitts when you first got that association.
Yeah, Cyril.
Yeah.
Cyril, Ralph, Archibald, Paul Wallach, Vera Shirley, and there were 2 others.
I think he wants. Come. He doesn't want to get on Facebook. Hold on. Tell me. Come. Teacher Jennie doesn't want to come in. Oh, that's easy. Loud. That's easy. We're switching mic because my mic is louder than your mic. And my voice is heavy.
Yeah. Oh, I see. It's an
So-
adjustment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happens is that when I speak, he's had to raise, lower the mic, and when you speak, he's had to raise it. So he's been
I've
doing
been
that.
through all
He's been earning his money, folks, the producer.
Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. So we can if there's anywhere you want to go while we're talking, you go. I'm gonna take us to St. Kitts. We're speaking about those that you work with in St. Kitts, those that taught you that you went to school with in St. Kitts. So you can say any aspect of that you want to talk about, whatever you want to talk about.
I wasn't there, don't forget.
Oh, you weren't there.
No,
Okay.
my sister. My sister.
Oh, your sister went to
Yeah,
St. Kitts.
my-
Okay. All right.
Mine is Antigua.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Antigua. That's fine.
Yeah.
So we can say some went to St. Kitts and
Antigua.
talk about that. Oh, we went to Antigua. All right. And then once we finish that, we come right back to secondary school. We'll come back to.
I didn't go to secondary school.
But that's okay because Miss P was saying the same thing that she only did 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't matter. People have to understand that. And look at how educated. It teaches us a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's ready.
Yeah.
And welcome back, folks. I am Paul on the ball, and I'm so excited this morning. I tell you, I was just up all night waiting for this, and I've got with me a lady that I've loved and respected so much. I don't think she knows how much I actually, how much love I actually have for her. Teacher Jennie Wheatley, and it's just like being in heaven here, listening to her speak. And I hope that you all really just plugging in and listening. Teacher Jennie, so we spoke a lot about your early years, but of course after that, a lot of folks were sent to different parts of the region to attend school. Tell us a bit about your memory of that.
Let me go back a bit, because I think the children in Road Town will not like this, that I did come into their school. That was after coming back from Antigua, so I finished radio. You had to go. You had to go. And one of the things that they have always blamed now in Harrigan for is that they think that he did not do good enough with using the teachers that were trained and came back. And I told them that I disagree. But Eastern had a right to feel the way they felt, because those of us who are trained as teachers now, we had to spread out. If they had left Stanley Gordon, Jennie Wheatley, and all the rest of us in Eastern School, as later on called Major Bay School, the rest of the territory would suffer. And so they sat down, they discussed it, and said, okay, we've got to save this entire territory. And so that's why I ended up in King Garden Bay, Paul Smith in Bellevue, Warner Penn and Anegada. And well, Charles he went everywhere. North Sound at 14 years, and taught with Ralph, and Western Lewis Walters, and all the rest of us. But I know what, the Eastern felt hurt, because all they're saying, they are all ours. Why don't you send out the other people from the other schools, the other places in Road Town? And of course, they were sending me to Jocelyn Dyke, and my mother said no. She's drawing the line there, and she went down with, I think it was 3 bank books, never mind what was in the bank books. Yeah. And she told them, no, my child stays on the mainland.
Was it an oversight by Novel Harrigan, you think, or what was it? Why do you think it is he took that approach?
Because he had to. He had to save the territory. And I've always agreed with him. He had to save this entire territory. Fine, if you had all your people in the one spot, they're all right. So what would happen to King Garden children? Only 150 children could go to secondary school. So every year, you only got in 30 students. The rest was, as we used to say in the rest was go to hell.
Wow.
So this was a situation you've got to. So when I landed in King Garden Bay, and I looked at the situation, I said, wait, am I to teach in a one-room school again in my lifetime? And I had to. And then that school, they'll never forget it. I actually said, okay, we are going to take whatever number of you, all of you in class 5, we are going to high school. Everybody looked, the teachers look at me like, no teacher, only Bell and somebody else went, they can't do that. I said, I will. Are you going to work with me, children? Yes. And I taught them during the day, taught them in the afternoon. Those who are going up on the hills, taught them and said, now when you go to that exam, it's to pass. And that's all we're doing, to pass it. And you are going to take King Garden Bay out of this foolishness that you only had Mercedes and somebody else who ever went to high school. And we did it. We took almost half of the 30.
Wow.
And then somebody said, you know what? I bet you she must have seen a paper and gave them that. I said, well, go tell them to come to me to ask me the question. It was a most sensible move. And those who had to go to the outer islands, you had to save Wajangada. Then Wajangada children came down to school, you know, you had to save the territory.
Yes.
And I'll always say, go for it.
So tell us a bit of some of the students that went to what different islands that you from your recollection
Insurance.
that left from our territory and went to, let's say, to Antigua or St. Kitts. So where all do you call?
It's a long list.
Because
Because if we look at, and I'm trying to picture them, the older ones like Rosa Vanterpool, Ines Turnbull, Dorothy Turnbull, Claudia Vanterpool went to Spring Gardens before my time.
Right.
And then Norma Osborne went to Spring Gardens. Then when they opened the other school, and then I went in with Eugenie Todman Smith. And interestingly enough, Eugenie Todman Smith and I was Jennie Smith. We happened to be almost the two people alive from that whole group of students that went in from Antigua, St. Kitts, Nevis, Anguilla, Virgin Islands, and Dominica was in at the time. And of course, there's one in Dominica, Neva Edwards, and most of them have decided to die.
Oh dear.
No, but they were older, much older
Yes,
people than I was.
know.
But for me, Eugenie Todman Smith is such an interesting person because she was one of the oldest people that went in there. So she is way up there. Whereas, you know, I was only 19.
Just a chick.
Yes. But again, when you come think of the Leeward Islands, that was one of the greatest moves that the Leeward Islands ever did. Do your own thing.
So if someone went to school in another territory, how did they get there? How long did it take? For yourself, you went to school in Antigua, did you?
Yeah, at college. I had no problems.
How did you get there? Did you fly ABVI?
No. But I'd have always praised in my Liat. I went in on Liat. I never forget the day, you know. I went in on Liat and they went to the different islands. They picked up quite a few of us on the way in. But I went to Liat and my children still find it so funny. Up to yesterday, Liat comes over and I am on the porch waving at Liat. It's such a beautiful, touching feeling to see them still there. Because there's no BWIA, it's not, they know none of the others, but I can still see my Liat going up over, you know, and I said, well, you know, late in all territories, leave island anytime, but it's Liat. It's my Liat.
Yes. One of the interesting topics that we spoke about when Eileen Parsons was on Miss P, was she spoke about electricity when they first got it in town. Now you were in East End. What was it like pre-electricity and post, and when did you get it?
We got electricity. I don't even remember. that was because remember that they had to do a lot of putting down those poles and what have you.
53, Miss P says, was town.
Oh, well, town was way ahead, man. Way, years ahead of us.
So 4 or 5
but
years.
Still it didn't have all day, you know, all night, you know. It was it was off at a certain hour.
She said midnight. She said it was turned off at midnight.
Right. So they didn't have it, but the advantage was the hospital was able to get, you know, more of those services. And the governor, which was the commissioner at the time, did have that. And those of us from the country used to cuss up. I mean, we can understand why our hospital has electricity, or why the commissioner has electricity, and why he has running water. And it was the beginning of things. You came to understand that, you know, later on. It was the beginning of things, you know. But you learn to live with it. And when you come in to do exams in town, and for those people the students who lived in town with the electricity, they come out on the weekend. Oh, this place is so dark, you know, the place. I said, how come what happened? Well, when we were in town, we can see we had electricity, you know. So come off it, baby. I had it in St. Thomas, my own, going to my grandmother.
Yes.
So I knew about electricity. I knew about the telephone and the party lines and so I had a beginning.
Yes.
And I would come back in the summer and brag about that beginning as well, you know. But but pre that, I mean, it was tough going. Washing, where do you wash? Josiah's Bay.
Yeah, that is my question actually.
Yeah, where do you go to wash? Josiah's Bay. So you got your clothes together and you went to Josiah's Bay in groups. And so you went down with your dry clothes. You wash on those nice smooth walks in the rainwater. And then when you come, you had places to dry them. So you came back not with wet clothes on your head.
So that was your washer and dryer?
Yeah. Which I never experienced because that cut just before.
Yes.
And then in came Lavity Stout. And Lavity Stout was with Mr. Watts. And Mr. Watts, no, we got that soap that could lather in well water.
Yes.
What a day. That was it. But they all those things, the ironing, oh my Lord. I still hate that stuff. But the goose, I hate a goose.
Are that the ones that you have to heat, the goose? Break
No.
it down for
Okay.
the uneducated like myself.
The first time I really used the one that you put on the coal was in Antigua. Because we had passed that. We had a goose. The one with the coal inside.
Ah, yes,
so we had
Pete
the one,
talked about
yes,
that. Yes.
we had the one with the coal
Because
inside.
if you forgot and you turned it upside down, it would go back
Yeah.
on the clothes.
Yes.
Right.
But when I went to Antigua, because I had seen this piece of thing in the yard, and I said, Mother, what's that? And she said, oh, that's the iron you used to use. I said, how are we going to use something like that? And then we went to Antigua, and again, Jennie Todman Smith knew about that. So that when I said to her, Jennie, how am I going to iron clothes? Oh, she said, Jennie, let me show you. We live and learn. You know, and I had so many new experiences there, you know. And yes, and I learned to do that with my irons. And then people from Dominica looked at me, well, where you came from? How come you don't know that? And you're a big girl. You know, it's a change. There's a word called change.
Yes.
And that's a word we have to be very careful with. What is the experience? What was your experience? What was my experience? They were not the same.
No.
And we have to, and up to now we are not adjusting to change. What is the virus? We had cholera. And that was about it, which I know nothing about.
Right. So when there was the virus of 1917, that's the big. Do you remember that?
No, I wasn't around.
Well, you weren't ready for that. But do your parents talk? This was something that you had heard about, or what was their attitude to that virus then? And of course, they had to take vaccines. You would have grown up having to take a vaccine.
We had to. No. In my time, by the time I got around, there was this good man from Mr. Charles from Antigua in
Right.
those days, you know. And we got the two kinds of medicine. Our medicine was, the pink one was for the cough, and the brown one was for diarrhea.
Right.
That was that. But this, what you're talking about, came in much later.
Okay.
You know, not in my time at all.
All right. So you just eavesdropped another name there, so I'm going to pick your brain on him. Lavity Stout.
Lavity Stout, great man, and I put 5 grades to him. Great man. What happened with Lavity Stout? Bright. He came into the high school, and this is a story that's better told by Dorothy Turnbull. Much better. Came into the high school, and you had quite a few of them, and the names, I have the names somewhere, but it's a story better told by her.
Okay.
And when actually the most I knew about Lavity was when I came back from university, believe it or not. And he called a meeting of the teachers who had come back, who were trained.
Yes.
Baby Islanders who were trained. And we said, what is this all about? So we went and Levity said to us, no, this is really a private meeting, but it has a public aim. What's the aim? Now, then we had the contract teachers. We had great teachers especially from Barbados, that came in on contract. Oh, some of them were super. But he said, yeah, we had a high school. We cannot continue this way. So those of you who are training, please don't get up and leave us and go back to Canada, go back to the States. This is a pattern. Go back. Come and stay with us. And we said, well, we don't find that a problem. We're here to stay.
Yes.
And but he also brought in the other teachers who were there working all the time, the Veronica Lake and people like that who were in there solidly with us over umpteen years, And so he did. That was a great move. But the contract teachers, they had very good contracts, and he got criticized for that he was wasting the money, giving these people this amount of money and boarding and so forth. But he was taking the best out of Barbados. Barbados was not Jamaica. They were not sending him mediocre kind of people.
Right.
They sent him solid teachers.
Wow.
And you still hear them talk about Gerald Rose and Mr. This, Mr. That, and the other, But we always took in people from the smaller islands too. So we would have had Brooks from Nevis, he made sure he had those others as well. So the Caribbean was represented, And we had the what were those people called? The Peace Corps people?
Peace Corps, yeah.
They,
Peace Corps.
yes, they did some work in this place. And the ones who sent us to, they were so humble. And sometimes I would look at the one and I said, where are your shoes? She said, my feet are too hot. You allow me to wear my slippers? I said, sure. Please wear your slippers. And she said, I find that you people are so dressed. Do I have to go and buy some clothes to make me look like you? I said, no, my dear, not at all. Are you comfortable? Yes. Are you decent? Yes, I'm always well covered. Remain as you are. Be comfortable. And what about our foods? Are you learning to eat them? Oh yes. Now that's why I can stay here all my life, But psychologically, you had to treat your people well.
Let me pick your brain a bit on the foods. As you brought it up,
brother.
the foods that you grew up on compared to what we're eating now, is there a difference? Is it the same thing?
Well, there is big difference. I grew up solidly on fish. On peas, and at the things that when you had pumpkin, sweet potato, tanya, cassava, and we had specialties when it comes to our potato. We grew up on the little mountain and the Barahona. Those were pretty much, I think some of those vines came in from Santo Domingo or wherever. And then we had one called the Bappy. Never mind, don't look like that. That is a potato that you use particularly for pudding. And it grew within 6 weeks. And you had good soil, you put in your vine, and you could start eating Bappy. And if you left them till Christmas, they were huge, but they were soft. And you could grate them, and you could grate us so easily. Those were the foods. I grew up on my wilks. I grew up on lobster. The lobster was a joke. You go down in the mangroves and your brother pull out some of the baby lobsters and we boil them before they even shake. We had, shellfish and every kind of fish.
I guess there are a lot of wilks in those days.
Oh, yes. And so I like them. The conch I didn't like. Why? The conchs were for bait in the pots. So because I lived on the bay,
Yeah.
I smelled conch every day, every day. So can they do something with those? And I still don't want any shark. I got tired of turtle, but these are like the foods, wonderful foods. Cow's milk, cream, what? And the stuff all the children buy now, and they think it's all the balaclava that you call yogurt, if you please. So, by the way, the things were
people are very healthy. They ate very healthy.
Very, 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 very. One of the problems in terms of that seemed to have been not a very good understanding, for instance, of high blood pressure and what you should and shouldn't use.
Sugar.
Oh Lord, yes. We ate too much sugar. We ate sugar, cake sugar, dish sugar. That's where we needed the lessons, and they came in from the churches. I find Adventist church, and those started to do the health and hitting you the health. The ministers in the pulpit will tell you, this thing is really these things. You want to last a lot longer to preach the gospel? I said, but what? Yes, cut down on, and you had that rum. Cut down if you can cut it out altogether.
Was it a local rum in those days, or was it one imported?
We had a local rum. The local rum from Josiah's and all those mills.
Do you recall anything about those mills? Who made? Not how it was made, but were they were local guys that made that?
Yeah. Again, go to Teacher Dorothy.
Okay.
Because she actually took a class of students up a hill to see the last of that today with the mules turning it around. She is perfect on that. And McTodman's father went with her. so that she actually, I have pictures somewhere of it. One of the Beamish girls, Pat Beamish, and some others were in the classes that went, and that was great.
Now, I haven't got much time left. I know you can't believe it, but our time's nearly up. So I'm going to ask you to tell us a bit about Christmas in East End as a youngster, as a child growing up. What was Christmas like, and is it any different today?
Oh, Christmas was the sweetest time of the year. Oh, it was great. You had your Santa Claus, and you had your little gifts, and not many. You would get like a little tin of powder and something that your mother brought from St. Thomas. Then we graduated to a dolly, and you got your little dolly, and you had that, and then your mother, a lot of the parents said, okay, that doll is from over yonder, make your own. And you had to do that because it drove you to that. And right. The baking, I can still smell the ovens, the tart, the cake, the pudding. And you had a method of using the same oven to bake a set of things. Bake it very hot, put in the pudding. Next to that, put in the tart. And right at the front, you put in the cake, and you dare not open the oven. But you had some younger fellows who, the bake so late in the night, they would go by the side ash pit, yes, and they would steal a pan of pudding or two, and they run off and they're eating them, the usual. And when you ask, oh, what happened to my thought I put in 6 pans of pudding? Well, it just happened that 2 disappeared. But Christmas was great, and the service, you look forward to your morning service, 5 o'clock. And Charles' Uncle Antonio, he would hear him leaving, and the bell is ringing. 5, and you got your notice bell, 5. But then when that bell is ringing, that means service starting, bang! So you better be up there before. The carolers would have gone and started and go to different places, or sometimes they did a half a thing and they rushed back into the church. Some of them quite tipsy, and they sang so well when they were tipsy, man, just a little of the rum. And then the rest of the day we danced, house to house, dancing. And you had a scratch band, and you danced from house to house. And my older sister, they said, I said, how you said, and I overhear it, how you said you can't get drunk? You will not get drunk if you put a piece of brown paper under your tongue. And I believe them fervently.
So you walk around with Bobby on your tongue.
Not a thing, so the lies were sweet. Very sweet.
Now, Teacher Jennie, we are literally out of time. I've got like a minute left.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you can come back because I know that you wrote a book.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that we can spend some time and talk about that book.
Yeah, all the books.
If you would come back,
certainly.
we can talk about. Well, I said a book. My apologies. You've written books.
Yeah.
So I want us to do another session where we can talk a bit about your books and the things that you've written.
Yes.
And we can do that. So that's what we're going to do when you come back the next time.
Please.
I want to thank you for being here. It was exceptional. It was exactly as I pictured it. And I know folks were just riveted to their chair listening today, because it's things that we just aren't aware that existed in the BV, and it lets people, give them a flavor of where we came from. So again, thank you so much for coming today. Please do come back. I'll find it at your convenience that when we can get you back again, because I really want to talk about all those books that you've written, and people don't just write books just for writing a book's sake. There's a rationale behind the book.
Yes. And for my beautiful students who prompted me to make those books. I'm looking forward to it.
So we'll talk about that in the next time. Until next time, I am Paul on the Ball. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening.